2024 is 100% going to be the transit of our lifetime. This is going to completely and totally change humanity. Major changes to the structure of society, to the political landscape. Nothing is going to be the same on the other side of this. And I think, is World War III actually going to happen? Because it's revolution. It's the same astrology that saw the French Revolution and the American War for Independence. The US is going to play a very, very big role in this transit. So this is setting up the species to meet God.
Thanks for joining me today. If you've had the question running through your mind, when is this madness going to end? What's in store for us in 2024? I've got those same questions. So today I invited my dear friend Rianna Schuh, fabulous evolutionary astrologer, and she's done up the chart for the collective for 2024 and has some super interesting things to say according to the stars. No pressure. I'm so curious, and I know a lot of people are, about what is coming up for 2024.
Yeah.
Like what's happening to the collective for 2024, because I think we've all cottoned on now there's something going on, right?
Something lumbers. This way something comes.
Yes. And not only that, I think people are sensing, and you mentioned it before, people are sensing that there's something coming.
Yeah.
And, you know, there's a big part of me that is super excited about that something coming. And then there is another aspect of me that goes, I think I'm just going to be incredibly surprised at the same time.
Yep.
So what fabulous insights have you got for us around that?
Okay, well, this is 2024 is the year that we can't avoid. We haven't been able to avoid any of them, but this is the year, in my opinion, that is going to kickstart the transit, and I'll talk about this really at the end, but it's the elephant in the room that everyone is feeling coming towards us. This is the transit, Pluto into Aquarius, that is, I think, 100% going to be the transit of our lifetime. This is a big call, but I think it's definitely going to be the collective transit of our lifetimes. I think it could also be the personal transit of our lifetimes because of what is actually going to be taking place when Pluto goes into Aquarius and stays there for 20 years. So I'm going to break that down at the end because it's really meaty and there's so much that people need to understand about what that is because it's revolution. Okay,
Yeah.
It's revolution.
And revolution is just evolution.
It's just evolution, and
That's
sometimes we just evolve in a more dynamic way because we just have to. We've waited long enough. We've gone gently, the gentle approach, or 3 people over here having a strong stance, and then 500 million people not taking the same stance. It's not working out, and that's when Pluto tends to appear and rear its ugly head. I think quite benevolent head, really, in a way, and move things forward. But there's lots of other stuff that's happening, so I'm going to talk about that at the end. But this is the year of major changes to the structure of society, to the political landscape, to our relationships, and it has to happen. We just have to keep going with this process. And I know that there's been a lot of voices and a lot of sense from the collective that, like, we can't keep going. We are very tired. And there's not going to be any backing off. We're going to have to learn to rest at points because the pressure is going to continue, and there's very, very important reasons why the pressure is going to continue. So we're in a deep process of accounting for the value of human life. So we're looking at the value of human life, the value of Earth and her children, the value of our resources and our relationship to our resources, whether they're value within self, the resource of self, how much worth is that, how much worth can I take on, what are the shared resources, how can we work with these things, do we want to share? We're seeing a lot of that in the world. No, I'm not going to share. So we're seeing extremes. We're seeing really polarizing responses to these kind of urgent energies as Gaia goes up. So the political landscapes are breaking down. That's obvious. The economic landscapes are going to continue breaking down. And our relationships, if you're still in a relationship after the Scorpio-Taurus axis of death and complete total destruction. I've got like 2 friends who are still married, 3 friends maybe, and they're like very exotic animals in my zoo. I kind of like study them. I'm like, how did you guys manage to make it through? It must be true love. But our relationships are really going to continue to evolve. And what is a relationship? So let's start by trying to calm people down a little bit. Is World War III, as we would imagine it to be, is World War III actually going to happen? No, I don't think so. Not in the way that there was World War I and World War II. Is World War III happening and has been happening for a really long time? Yeah, it has. Absolutely. It's the war of the spirit. And this was really what we're going to have to start accounting for, especially this year, is what was laid down, in my opinion, at the fall of Atlantis. And our human consciousness got corrupted. Things got inserted. Programs got inserted. There was a lot of mutiny that led us away from ourselves. And there's going to be a big accounting for that when Pluto goes into Aquarius. We've got to try and recalibrate that, regather ourselves as a species, and really remember who we are as individuals. But is World War III going to happen? I don't think so. There's going to be continue to be a lot of social unrest, at least for the first 2 years of Pluto into Aquarius. So 2024, 2025, 2025 to 2026, I think are not going to be happy times. The major transits as I see them, and I'm not going to spend too long talking about this because it can get kind of, all intellectual and too many dates and times, but January 20, Pluto enters Aquarius. I'm going to come back to this. April 20, Jupiter conjunct Uranus in Taurus. So this is going to be about money, power, abundance, and kind of shocks around those themes. Uranus is shocking. Jupiter's conjunct Uranus. Jupiter wants to expand themes of abundance and goodwill. Uranus goes in Taurus. We're in Taurus, so we're fixed Earth in Taurus. We're in the middle of the harvest. If we're going to have life to the full, what do we need? What does that mean? And Jupiter wants to expand our experience of having life to the full. So then Uranus gets in and kind of sudden revelation, sudden movement. Suddenly we can see where we weren't able to hold the abundance and that innate goodwill towards life that Jupiter's trying to impart. So that's going to be shocks around themes. Taurus, being a fixed earth sign, is about money. If we're going to have life, and we're going to have life this is one of the things that Taurus is about. But money is a question mark for Taurus, because if we're going to have life and we're going to have a wedding feast, let's flow with that. We don't want to stress about that. We want to enjoy life. Taurus is sensual. We're here to be together. We're here to enjoy each other. We don't want to stress around paying the electricity because that's boring. We want to be in the middle of the party and enjoying this spectacular experience on the earth plane. So that's April 20. May 23, Jupiter sextiles Neptune. This is highly auspicious date. These are as a very beautiful alignment, two very great beauties of the zodiac in a sextile, which is sextiles, if you're looking at those in a natal chart, I always read a sextile as something that is like a karmic gift. Like it's something that the person has earned previously. So when it pops up in, you know, the planetary flow of things. It's a harmonic realization of being Jupiter sextiling Neptune. They're both very spiritual. So this might be like a sudden, profound spiritual realization. And being a sextile sort of, it always feels within me when there's a sextile, it's like a sun or a flower kind of blooms suddenly within you. Like it's gentle. It's like, it's kind of like, it's literally like having an experience of God, right? That's what Neptune is. Jupiter's there, expanding that, being benevolent with it. May 25th, Jupiter enters Gemini. This is going to be huge. I'm going to come back and talk about this transit because that's a massive transit that's going to happen. June 2nd, Jupiter trines Pluto, which is going to be increasing power, influence, and success within your life or how you are in the lives of other people. A trine, that's another very auspicious kind of angular thing that pops up in a chart. It's about harmony, ease. The planets are all in the same modality. They're all in the same element. So we go with what's natural. It's kind of the energy goes, well, this is innate. This is natural. We'll easily go in this direction. So a trine is, it's like, oh, that was suddenly easy. If we've been struggling, it's like, oh, well, now the road is made clear. Okay, so that's June the 2nd. August the 2nd, I'm going to come back to this. August the 19th, I'm going to come back to this because there's Jupiter square Saturn, which actually happens twice this year. I'm going to break that down more when I talk about the Jupiter going into Gemini, because that's kind of a big brick wall. There's going to be some tension that happens around what Jupiter is trying to do in Gemini. September 1st, Pluto retrogrades back into Capricorn for the last time. So Pluto has been going like this between Capricorn and Aquarius. And when it retrogrades back into Capricorn, it retrogrades back to what's called the anaretic degree. That's the 29th degree in astrology, and it's known as the degree of fate. So there's this tension of kind of like bracing yourself when a planet like Pluto moves back into the degree of fate in a sign like Capricorn, which is about power, structures, governing bodies. It's very masculine. It's very dominant. You know, it's also very service oriented, which is why Capricorns work so hard and why they're so angry, because they're working all the time because they've got to help the formless come into form on the earth plane. But when you get to that degree of fate, it's on the cusp. So there is significant blurring of energies. It's hard to read past. Have we learnt the lessons? What's the culmination of this? What do we know now? What are we going to leave behind? What structures now need to be destroyed by the people, for the people, when we go back into Aquarius? So it's like when a planet goes back and forth and ingresses, it's a pressurized feeling. It's not comfortable. So that's September 1st. November 19th, then it re-enters Aquarius and it stays there until 2043. December the 6th, Mars retrogrades in Leo. This is going to be interesting. Mars is our assertion, our dominance, our libido, our lust for life. It's our action orientation. So it's going to retrograde in Leo, which is really about the heart. So we're going to be having to review our actions, review our orientations, review how we get things done in light of what our hearts say. Are we just going forward and kind of crash tackling through things because it feels good to move the energy that way? Or are we oriented with the heart first and foremost? Is the heart leading and inspiring the action, or is the action just happening because we're trying to escape uncomfortable feelings within our hearts, or maybe knowingnesses that we've tried to avoid? So I think that's going to be a really interesting, because Mars does not like to retrograde. Mars is boom, Mars wants to go forward. It's the ruler of, well, it rules Aries, but it jointly rules Scorpio. It's about courage. It's about fire. It's about let's just get the thing done. So this is going to be hard when it has to kind of pull up and reconsider itself. It's going to be uncomfortable. And of course, when we're action oriented, we'll see, and then that goes into retrograde. It has the flow on effect of like, I want to go and see Vesna, and it was all booked, and then something happens and it just doesn't work. You know what I mean? And then I've got to sit with the feelings about why I really needed to get to you and why I can't get to you, and what does that make me feel? I mean, that's like a microscopic kind of,
but it's those kind of feelings. Yeah.
It's those kind of feelings. December 24th, Jupiter squares Saturn again, which I'll talk about when we talk about Jupiter going into Gemini. Let's quickly look at the eclipses. So eclipses happen in families, and they are relating really by and large with a few differences here and there, but by and large, the eclipses happen on the axis of the north and south nodes of the moon, which are the nodes of fate and destiny for humankind, the north and south nodes of the moon. So we move on these axes. You'll always be on an axis in your personal chart as well as in the collective chart. So as of, I hope I get this date right, it was July 17th this year, the nodes shifted from the axis of Taurus and Scorpio, life and death, shifted onto the axis of Aries and Libra, which is self versus other. So Libra is in the south node position. South node is the karma that we must release, and Aries is at the top at the north node, which is what we have to embody more. But this axis, self and others, this is the axis of relating. This is the axis of relating. So this is a huge conversation that we're now having collectively about our relationships and how can we do the dance that can serve you, serve the relationship, and serve me. So if you and I are in a relationship, how can Vesna be fully individuated, fully self-expressed, getting her needs met, whatever her needs are? That's Aries, me. What do I need? Can I also get my needs met, or everything that I need? And can we somehow try and harmonize this so that the relationship can actually not just survive, but thrive? And what we're typically seeing is that relationships that were karmically due are being swiped. So if they haven't been swiped already, they will be swiped next year. And I don't say that to make anyone feel frightened. I mean, sometimes a karmic ending means that the way that their energies are playing out, or the way that the pattern is playing out between both parties, just can't work anymore. If both parties can agree that it can't work anymore, now we've got something to work on together. If one party says no, like I'm not agreeing to that, I'm not going to give you your freedom, or in Libra we need to be very we're very much about the status quo. The injury in Libra is around relationships, ruled by Venus. She can't see herself outside of the relationship. So it's relationship at all cost, or Libra doesn't know who she is anymore. So it's codependent, deeply codependent. And there's a very understandable survival reason for this. But the universe says, codependence doesn't really work for me anymore. It's not going to work for the survival and the thriving and the forward momentum of the human species. We've done this enough. I want to change storylines now. So in a nutshell, that's what the Aries Libra axis is about. But it's very hard for us to let go of karmic partnerships when we've loved or longed for or wanted it to be a certain way for a certain period of time. It's hard to let go. And that's where that Aries warrior self can step forward with kind of courage and conviction. So we're being asked to hold on to and examine our needs. Is this a really good need for me? Do I need it because I need it, or do I need it because I'm trying to play some little game with you to keep you codependent with me? Is it a proper need for my own self-expression that's going to help me fulfill my life and fulfill the experience of myself in fullness on the earth plane, or are we just kind of stuck together and doing a bit of a dance? So that's the axis that we're on at the moment. Now, there's going to be a lunar eclipse in Libra on March 25th. That's going to be about like partnerships, relationships, lunar, the moon, our emotions. It'll be very emotional, be very watery. Then there's going to be a total solar eclipse in Aries on April 8th. This is going to be potentially an inferno, because at the same time, some other really big things are happening. Like Mercury is retrograde in Aries, literally a week before this solar eclipse happens. So Aries is going to be like, boom, solar eclipse. I need what I need. I'm ending everything. I'm going forward. But because Mercury is retrograde in Aries at the same time, Aries is not going to be able to communicate what they need. They're just going to be leaving. So it's going to be like funk, like inferno, potential emotional inferno that day. Stay at home. That's like the one day you don't leave the house, don't talk to anyone, don't look at anyone. That's April the 8th. Then there's a partial lunar eclipse in Pisces that happens later in the year. This will have a lot to do with the revelations of the mystic self, spiritual beliefs in Pisces, disillusionment, illusionment, that kind of lunar eclipse. Again, it's watery, so it's going to be trying to bring something spiritual or something mystic to light. But in the light of the moon, we're very emotional about it, so it can be a little bit nebulous. Pisces is already a bit nebulous because it's ruled by Neptune, so it's already a little bit all over the shop. October 2nd, there's a solar eclipse in Libra. This is going to be building new bridges in Libra. Hopefully Libra has learned some lessons by then. She's ready to start doing relationships in a different way, building bridges from a space of more authority in Libra, where she doesn't actually need everything that she thought that she needed, and she can stand on her own a little bit. So they're big themes of self versus other. And then with that partial lunar eclipse in Pisces, there's also aspects of questioning spiritual identity in relationship as well, lost fragments of self.
It's so intense. Like, I'm sitting here going, okay, we need to perhaps speak to how to help people to navigate some of these. I mean, yes, stay at home on April the 8th, was it?
April the 8th. Yeah.
April the 8th. Stay at home April the 8th. But also it's interesting too, because if you don't know how to communicate your needs and you have this inferno that comes up within you, to maybe put it in your calendar.
That's actually what I do. And when I'm reading for people, I tell people, like, be mindful of this date. If this happens on this date, you are learning this lesson. You will have an opportunity to respond this way, right? If you know, I mean, look, I can sit here and go, yeah, write that down in your diary. Do you think I ever behave responsibly or appropriately or with the grace that I intended to on the date that I've got circled, and, like, you know, flares of fire coming off it when the thing happens and I'm like, phew. And that's just part of the process of being human. It's just part of the process. If you can understand the themes of the lessons of the curriculum that we are having at the moment, even if you do go off and you lose yourself, there's still a huge lesson in that. It's still a big gift, because you can go back and go, wow, I really, really lost it. I don't actually have within my toolbox at the minute the capacity to hold myself when a situation like that arises. in these eclipses. When I don't get my own way, what do I do? Even if I love the other person, what do I do if I don't get my own way? Is that love? Is that fair on the other person? Or is it all about me being Aries? Is it all about me? Does it need to be all about me at the moment? If so, the highest regard for the other human being might be to say, I can't do this relationship with you. I've really got to charge off in this direction at the moment. These are some of the things that, you know, we're encountering, and you've got to be aware that eclipses are very, very painful for everyone. They can be extremely tumultuous times, and I don't know about you, but I kind of feel like, me talking with some other astrologers about this too, actually, I've been like, do you feel like the eclipses are getting worse? And they're like, yeah. They're getting worse. You know, our Schumann resonance is being refined. There's so many different things that are happening on the earth plane that are happening to get our attention, to get us to focus with a kind of purified gaze.
It's true. And I think that our sensitivity is really raising up.
Yeah.
And on some level, I think people are really, if you dig deep into the unconscious and kind of swirl around in there, we know what's going on. We have this surface idea that we don't know. We have this surface idea, and it's nice to sit in that place of comfort. But when you dig deep, you can access those records. You can access your blueprints. You can access I know in my own life, I knew how long I was going to be married each time.
Yes.
I knew it, even though consciously it was like it was a nice idea to go, oh, yes, no, this will be for a lifetime for sure.
You absolutely know. And I mean, I don't want to come across super Scorpio. I want to come across gentle. Let me try and just breathe and transmit grace and gentleness.
I'm doing that well.
A bit notorious for going a bit rough, but you really do have to learn a lesson here, guys.
Yeah.
It's up to you. Like, if you want to kick around and you know that your relationship is codependent, you know that you are both boxed in as souls, that night, and people do know, even if they don't have this kind of languaging, they know that they're frustrated. You know, they know that intimacy has died. And if there's a willingness to look at that and acknowledge it and work with it, okay, we're still moving forward in some way, shape, or form. If we're just stuck, and I mean, we could go really deep down the rabbit hole here, which we're not going to go down because it's not really astrological. It's far more metaphysical. But everyone is allowed to play on whatever level of the thing they're wanting to play on.
Yeah, absolutely.
So everyone's got free will. I mean, so if we take this and put it in terms of the eclipse, if I know that my soul, or this particular eclipse cycle, if I know that my soul is like, I'm not going to say what my soul wants, but I know what my soul wants. So therefore, it would behoove me to lean in. If something flares and I'm like, whoa, oh my God, it helps me if I am willing to participate in whatever that experience is, because no matter what it is, I'm going to get much more knowledge, awareness. I'm going to be able to make more conscious decisions on the other side of that. I might actually be able to completely let go of the riverbank for a minute and long enough for life to move me and not resist the flow of life. And if I could say one thing about eclipse cycles, you can only fight the information and the experience of the eclipse for so long. If it didn't get you on the Scorpio-Taurus axis, it'll get you. At some point, it will get you. So we're all being given the opportunity to participate as deeply as we're prepared to participate, and therefore reap the rewards of this.
Ultimately, it's a great purification.
Completely.
So as we're understanding ourselves from those deeper frames of consciousness, those waves of consciousness, those streams of consciousness that we dive into and go, and not that I even want to go high and low, it's a choice.
Totally.
So if we want to play in this stream of consciousness, then that's where we are, and we get to know ourselves there. And then we can jump into all different frames. And it's up to us, where we are gods in flesh, so to speak, and we are here to play. So I look at it in the sense that, the more that we can purify and understand what this reality is reflecting, what it's mirroring back to us, so that we can see what our own creation is.
Exactly.
As we purify that, then we're less thrown around by these celestial bodies anyway.
Exactly. It's not, it doesn't come as a big shock. It comes as like, well, I knew that was coming. I knew that was coming. That needed to happen. I saw that coming. I couldn't quite move it myself. And then a planetary body or a celestial process kicks off and moves the thing for us. But like, I know that you would have this experience too. I read for people and they're like, I know the thing. Can you just tell me the thing?
I yes.
know it. I know it. And they know already. They just need to be affirmed that like the only way out is through, and you are going through, and this is what through feels like. It's kind of vomitous. It's nauseating at times. Sometimes you can't see the light at the end of the tunnel. Sometimes you can, and it's just a process. But I personally think, whether people will acknowledge it or not, that everyone does know. I think everyone does know. Like,
I think so.
In their own self, they know. You know when you're trying to pull a Swiftie on yourself or on someone else. Because it's uncomfortable.
It is uncomfortable. You're out of alignment, and
totally.
You know when you're out of alignment. It's really simple, but sometimes, like you were saying, people don't have the kit, the thing in their toolbox to direct them back to what the new alignment is, or they've got to actually unwind so much attachment to the old paradigm. Totally. And that experience of truly letting go, like children would, we've, through our bruising and our battering and our rolling down the hills and having things taken away from us and being struck by lightning 15 million times, somewhere along the line we kind of go, oh, can I? Oh, I've lost a little bit of faith.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. And if there's ever just an uncertainty in us, I guess what eclipses, lunar or solar eclipses, do is that they move things very fast. It's an explosion of energy one way or another, either lunar or through the sun. It's an explosion of some kind of energy, and it's fast and it's hard. So eclipses are needed to advance the plot quickly. We change scenes quickly during eclipses.
It's like fast forwarding when you're watching a movie.
Now we're there. So that's what that energy is about. But that's why it feels the way that it feels, and we're all kind of left cowering, and you're in an eclipse portal. There's a shadow phase either side of it as it builds up, and then we get ejected out the other side, and it's like we have run a marathon. We're trying to gather ourselves and be like, okay, like, I think my arm got blown off. We're trying to work out what just happened there. So they are intense. They're not going to get any less intense. All right, let's look quickly at Mercury retrogrades. Now, it's interesting because Mercury, we normally start the year with Mercury in retrograde. Mm-hmm. This year, on January 1st, Mercury goes direct. That does not normally happen. Normally, we're all kind of lolling around, in a bit of a stupor, waiting for Aries, really, the first children of God to arrive in March, first sign of the zodiac. They kind of, light their torch and charge off into the darkness, and that's when the energy moves. This is going to be really different. So Mercury is going to go direct straight away in Sagittarius, which is already way on the move. Sagittarius bolts. It's the archer. It's the one who's on the mission from God. So Mercury, our thought forms, our messages, the way that we understand our thought process, going to go direct in Sagittarius. So we're going to be climbing up the mountain for God. And in pure Sag fashion, we'll get up the first mountain and we'll go, this isn't the mountain, God's not here, over that way. So we'll charge off that way. So there's going to be a lot of kind of talking and a lot of thinking and a lot of movement of thought forms right at the beginning of the year. April 1st, Mercury retrogrades in Aries. So thought processes around how we understand ourselves starts moving in a non-forward or non-linear fashion anymore. So we're going to pull up and think about that. In retrograde, we get this vacuum, this beautiful vacuum kind of mercy, really. Retrogrades hurt at times, but it's a vacuum of mercy that opens up so that we can sort of stop and see ourselves clearly. So Mercury retrograding in Aries, the self. Can I think? Can I see myself clearly? What are my thought forms about myself? Then that solar eclipse happens that we were just discussing on April 8th. So there's big things happening. April's going to be a really big month. A lot of stuff moves around in April, probably quite violently. So know that. So if we were talking about helping the people, how to get through April, do some meditation, start yoga, start a daily walk practice, introduce mantra into your life, do something that's soothing, really soothing, that can kind of help you weather the stormy celestial movements during that month. August 5th, Mercury retrogrades in Virgo. So Virgo is a sign, it's all about our health, our bodies, daily routines, what we got to edit, what we got to kind of cut off. How can we perfect the thing? Virgo wants to perfect. Virgo wants to be of service. They've got to find their sacred service. So when Mercury retrogrades in Virgo, we're going to be thinking about all of these things. Is my health good? Am I looking after my body? What's my day-to-day like? Can I edit something that's going to make it more efficient? Virgos are very efficient creatures. How can I kind of make this really, really good? How can I make it better? How can I make it perfect? What do I need to do? So there could be interruptions with our daily routines, with our health during that particular retrograde. November 25th, the last retrograde of the year, is also in Sagittarius. So back to Sagittarius, instead of going direct, Mercury is now retrograde, and we're wondering about what's our mission? What's the point? Where the archer is going to have to kind of pull up and go, well, what am I running after? What's the search for the endless, it's greener over there, then it's greener over there, then it's greener over there. This is the injury in Sagittarius. So we're going to be able to see that injury more clearly. Where am I just bolting instead of where am I staying? Where are the places where I probably need to stay and commit to watering the grass where I am right now, rather than charging off again to try and find better grass? So those are the retrogrades. Now I wanted to move on and talk about Jupiter going into Gemini. This is a really exciting thing. It's a huge transit. It goes in, it ingresses on May 25th, 2024, and it stays in Gemini until June 9th, 2025. What does this mean? Okay, so Jupiter wants to expand everything, wants to be benevolent, wants to be abundant, wants to share information, wants everything to kind of just move forward in a helpful, pleasurable, really way. Gemini is the sign of the twins. So Gemini is a sign of duality, but it's got so much to do with communication. Gemini is ruled by Mercury. So when Jupiter goes into Gemini, we think of all of the kind of, things that are associated with Gemini. They're very quick-witted. They're very intelligent. They can't make up their mind. They go all over the place. They can be very, very persuasive. They're very chameleonic, like Geminis are really exciting people. They tend to be very creative people, but they move really, really fast. And Jupiter being quite a spiritual planetary archetype anyway, when it hits the sign of Gemini, not only are we going to be looking at communication, but we're also probably going to be considering more inner, deeper themes within Gemini. So in brief, the mythology of Gemini is about the twins Castor and Pollux. Castor was mortal, both born of Zeus, and Zeus the immortal father and Leda the mortal mother. So Castor was mortal and Pollux was immortal. And as the story goes, Castor was fatally wounded in battle. And what it did to Pollux was that the mind, Mercury in Gemini, the mind of Pollux finally hit the question that it couldn't. It broke Pollux. It was enough to break through and to get into his heart. Geminis are up here. It's hard for them to really get into an embodied sense of who they really are. And this question of life and death, mortality, immortality tends to be ultimately the brick wall that Gemini runs into. So Pollux hit this and begged the gods to give some of his immortality to his brother. So when Jupiter, already a spiritual sign, is going into Gemini, I think that we're going to also be thinking about these themes. We're going to be assisted in Gemini to think more about these themes, mortality, immortality. But it's really, I think, going to be about technical stuff, curiosity, communication, very much the rise of the role of social media in shaping public opinion, shaping our thought forms, shaping our understanding of life, shaping maybe our understanding of mortality and immortality, changing the way that we might be able to express that or communicate that. It's the speed and the dissemination of information, the reach of information. Remember, Jupiter wants to expand, so we're going to have probably a farther reach of things. In a really spiritual way, if I just wanted to make a really kind of kooky prediction, in a spiritual way, Jupiter being spiritual in the sign of Gemini, if you agree that you are telepathic, being a form of communication, and I agree that I am telepathic, being a form of expanded communication, like, my highest hope for this transit would be that there's suddenly a lot of telepathic communication that becomes available. And a lot of us are already working in that way, so there'll be really and kind of an explosion of this. That would be my highest hope for this transit. However, at 2 points, Saturn is actually going to square Jupiter. So a square is a restriction. It's hard. It's something where both of those planets cannot flow. They cannot actually communicate properly. And it stalls the progress of the thing. It makes it more challenging. Why does it make it more challenging? Because we need to look at it harder. If there's a square, we've got to really concentrate and go, what is the lesson here? What is the lesson here? Saturn slows everything down. He's the master of time and karma, so he slows everything down. So what might this look like? This might look like restrictions in free speech, in communication. It might look like collapse of platforms or problems with platforms, or through this newer access to information, more people turning around and questioning things like fact checking, That's Saturn, you know, why am I being restricted? Who's doing the restricting? Who's been given the power here? Who's been given the authority? That's Saturn. So we're going to be checking that out on 2 different dates. So he squares Jupiter, Saturn squares Jupiter on 2 different dates. So that's going to be an interesting transit. That's a big one. So that's that. Now we've got Saturn in Pisces as well. Saturn's already been in Pisces, went in March 7th, 2023 until February 2026. So this is interesting because Pisces is the sign of the dreamer, and it's the most boundaryless sign of the zodiac. And Saturn is all about boundary, like I just said, boundaries, restrictions, like the brick walls, slow up, slow down. So this is really about how we can construct the dream arc of the self in a way that is responsible and real. So what Pisces doesn't tend to like is to get really real. They like to be in fantasy land, and if anyone tries to challenge the fantasy, Pisces can really, being watery, they can become quite estranged towards the person pretty quickly. They can have a strong reaction to that. But Saturn is talking about discipline, structure, like it's great to have all of these dreams, but are they grounded in something real? Can you bring this dream down onto the earth plane? Can you give it structure? So we're really radically conceiving and thinking about, what are my dreams? What really are my dreams for this human life? And what am I going to do? What am I prepared to do to put in the structure that is required in my life so that I can have this fantastical thing, whatever it is, really, really become apparent, literally appear in my reality? Because Pisces is really the most mystical, spiritual sign, Saturn being there, the Lord of restriction, talking about power, talking about authority, we're also needing to undergo questions about, have I given my spiritual authority away? Where did that go? And Pisces will be like, oh, it was there a second ago and now it's gone. Like, where'd it go? So we're having to reconsider very much as a collective, what is my spiritual power? And everyone's is different. How much power am I allowed to have spiritually? How much am I going to hold? Have I given this away? Saturn, karma, there will be kind of karmic realizations during this transit about loss of spiritual discernment, loss of spiritual direction, self-direction. It's the authority of the self to both dream the dream arc that it wants to dream, and also have the spiritual and structural calibration and power, the personal power to bring that thing into reality. So I love that transit. I find that that's a transit that I'm working a lot with myself. Does that come up for your clients at the moment?
It does, and it's very much about what I do, is that I help people to realize their karmic patterns, so that they can then change them.
Exactly.
Because all of our karma, well, I mean, there is some karma that we are fated to have no matter what. I can't change the karma that I came into this life as who I am in this form. However, there is so much that I can change.
Exactly.
So, and I love that as well, because that's what I help people to do, to work out where they lost themselves.
Absolutely.
And started to agree to some form of reality that says, I can't have what I want.
Yeah.
And also too, to teach people about desire, I mean, I'm Venus all over the place. So to me, it's like, of course we have to have desire. That's what we're here for.
In the form, yeah.
We're here in the form. We're here to know our desires, and we're here to manifest them. The desires, I think, that are restricted for us are the ones where we've agreed that we can't have it.
Yeah.
So that's, to me, that's traditionally what is the lower frequency of desire.
Yeah.
And yeah, there's a lot in that. So yeah, so I love helping people out of their karmic traps, and so that they understand they ultimately are co-creating this reality, and they can actually get to see behind the iron curtain, to understand that we've got this blueprint and that we are influenced. And however, in my understanding is, as we purify these karmas, as we start to become conscious of who we really are, we're no longer influenced by the planets, just like we're not influenced by the wind when we walk out in the street. If we choose to walk upwind or downwind, it's mind you, if we're in a hurricane, it's a different story. But yeah,
so we can choose.
We can choose.
We can absolutely choose.
Yeah.
And then we actually get more options.
Yes.
That's all it is. It's like, when people are talking about money, and it's like, well, money's not going to give you, it's not going to make you happy if you're not already happy. What it will give you is more options, good or bad. It'll give you more options, good or bad.
Exactly.
And that's what purifying karma does. It just gives you more options. It doesn't mean that you could turn around and pick up something dire and be like, okay, cool, I've done with that, and I think I might like to do something even more menacing now. But it just gives you more options because you've cleared storylines. Can I just talk about the very last thing, which is the biggest thing?
Of course.
Is that all right? Just before you try and wrap this up, we've actually got to talk about the monolith, which is Pluto going into Aquarius, because this is a thing that is... This is the guy. This transit is the guy. This is the transit of our lifetime. This is going to completely and totally change humanity. Nothing is going to be the same on the other side of this. And I think that this is what people are feeling. And I'm going to try and summarize this coherently and gently and fairly succinctly, but I think that this is what people are feeling. They're feeling the slow, stealthy intention of Pluto. So let's break this down a little bit. I was saying before that Pluto is currently retrograding Capricorn. It's finishing off business there. And when it moves into Aquarius properly, it's going to actually kickstart a new cycle in that sign, but it's the same astrology that saw the French Revolution and the American War for Independence. And America, as the US, is going to play a very, very big role in this transit as well.
Yeah.
So let's have a look first and foremost at what Pluto is, so that people can get the context of what this even means. What's Pluto? So Pluto is a planet. It's all the way on the outskirts of the galaxy. It's the last planet. It's the lone wolf. It's the one who's on the outskirts watching everything and keeping the receipts. And it represents radical transformation. It's the alchemist. It's the magician. It's about our psychology. It's about our sexuality. It's about our power. It's about our urges, the depths of our subconscious psyche, our hidden materials. So Jungian psychology works so much with the Pluto archetype and what that is. It's also Hades. In mythology, Pluto is Hades. So it's the god of the underworld. And this planet deeply disrupts the themes of the sign that it goes into. It deeply disrupts everything. It triggers the unconscious materials of that sign. It's relentless in its pursuit, because what Hades understands is that when we go out and we start, playing in the world of form, the way that we start creating, or the way that we have to start creating, seems to be that we create from our not self themes first. So we create the polarity of what we really are, and in doing so we ascribe ourselves samskaras, we ascribe other people samskaras, we get thought forms, we get beliefs, we get perceptions. We're kind of going further and further and further down into the descent of this journey of play in form. And what Pluto does is that it believes that all of that angst, all of those cut off, repressed, rejected aspects of self that were the result of our desire to play and to create in form, that these things are the jewels. They're the jewels of evolution. They're the jewels by which we can purify. I know that you use that word so much, and I really use that word so much because of you too. We can purify these things, and they actually serve so much greater purpose, because Pluto, or Hades, understands that hell is not a physical location. It is a psychological space within the soul. And we cannot go forward carrying all of this detritus, all of this rotten stuff. So that's, in a nutshell, that's Pluto. It's really a part of fulfilling the arc of the soul, because without this alchemy, we can't transform and we can't become something else. It was discovered in 1930, so we're in the era of atomic science, and that's really what you need to know. So we split the atom. That's what Pluto is. Splits the atom, reveals the chaos, the catastrophe within that thing, releases it, and in the process of releasing it, whilst it causes great destruction, it reveals enormous power. And once we've got that power, it's ours. We're crowned with that from having gone through this underworld initiation of this alchemical process. So it exposes the splitting the atom. It exposes where we have been split within ourselves and towards other people. So it exposes our darkest fears, our pain, our egoic power agendas. What am I going to do? How far would I go to retain power? How far would I go? What would I do? What would it cost someone to maintain my dark materials, to keep them repressed? Who do I have to subjugate to keep myself in control of all of this dark, frightening material? That's Pluto. What is Aquarius? So Aquarius as a zodiac sign is a really, really interesting, it's actually one of my favorite zodiac signs. It's so perplexing. It's very, very multifaceted, and I really vibe with the way that it sort of experiences itself. So Aquarius is fixed air. Think about air. It's governed by the ability, air, it carries ideas, it carries information. Air is free. It's not contained anywhere. So we've got a great transmission of freedom and liberation. It's governed by Uranus. Uranus rules Aquarius. Uranus is the higher octave of Mercury. So Uranus goes even above the thought forms and the way that we communicate and the way that our mind works. Uranus goes above that, supersedes that, and is in charge of the kind of the bird's eye vision, the God's eye view of the thing. It's very much about spiritual comprehension of why it has to be this way. Why is reality this way? It's very shocking. It's about innovation. Uranus is our genius in our chart. We'll look to Uranus, we'll look to Aquarius, and look to where our genius is, whether we've repressed it or not. So Aquarius is about carrying ideas, it's visions for the future, it's the sign of revolution. Its symbol is the water bearer, which is a human figure bearing water, which is the symbol of this being incarnating to actually carry forth the information, bear the information to the people so that they can be free. This is what Aquarius is. What happens in Aquarius, though, is when you have incarnated with information and intelligence, this is greatly intelligent sign. When you've incarnated this way into a family and a tribe and a society and a planet, species and a planet, when you've incarnated in with a very future-oriented vision, it can be very hard for anyone to understand what the hell you are saying and what you're talking about. So what happens is that Aquarius tries to bring the water. It tries to pass the idea that it's been given to bring into the people, to liberate the people. And the people turn around to Aquarius and go, what? What? And they completely reject Aquarius. Aquarius, being an air sign, is not okay being in the body. We're not happy in the body in Aquarius. This is really hard for us. So what it tends to do is catapult back up into the air, into the mind, into that very lofty perspective. And from there it gazes down on those that it came to help, who turned against it and rejected it. And the agony of this, the agony of having tried, you were given a mission, you carried a mission, you carried the information, you gave it to the people and they rejected you. And what this tends to have, the effect that this tends to have is that Aquarius turns back. So that great humanitarian potential in Aquarius starts becoming inhumane because of this great intelligence that they have. They use it against the people that they came to help. And it's because it's this pain of being an alien. That's the wound in Aquarius. So when Pluto goes in and ingresses into that sign, we are going to reveal the injury. Pluto will reveal the injury of Aquarius, which is really the injury of humanity. So it's absolutely enormous. And another big thing about Aquarius is that it's about individuation. Aquarians are often really, really like no one else. You'll know an Aquarius because they're really not like anyone else. They're happy to kind of be eccentric, be themselves. You know, they're often capable of doing many, many different things. It's a very talented sign. They're ambidextrous in what they can do because of this often inordinate intelligence that they've been given. So this is what Pluto, remember what I said about Pluto, this is what Pluto is going to be doing and expunging in Aquarius. So what is this going to look like? Splits in power, social unrest, social tensions, falls from grace, because Pluto is going to reveal the inhumane, the dehumanizing things and people and agendas, power agendas that have been rigged against the full individuation and thriving within the human species. It's about potentially the collapse of the banking system, which people have been talking about for a while, financial system. This is going to be polarizing stances around gender, because even the glyph, the symbol of Aquarius is a human figure. It's neither male nor female. So we're going to have very polarizing, everything's going to kind of polarize, because if we're trying to individuate ourselves, to do so, we're going to have to rub against what we are not. And what we're rubbing against, what we are not, that thing is trying to individuate as well. So we're going to have ideological blow-ups. This could be quite religious, like read this, there are big religious themes, ideologies. People are going to take very puritanical stances towards stuff in an effort to try and control the feeling of everything's out of control. And this is mayhem now. So this is what we're going to be seeing. Lots of disclosures. I would say a lot of innovation into space travel, medicine, Aquarius and Uranus being the great innovators. And I don't think that we're going to get through this without seeing a return of energy to the people. So the whole concept of free energy will have to be discussed en masse, because energy is something that keeps people very, very much under control. We can't be free when Our sources of energy can be restricted. And of course, with the theory of free energy, we would be radically free, not a little bit free, radically free. So we'll see ETs and, all sorts of things. So to become this authentic species that we need to be, we've got to go through this great channel of plutonic purgation and hopefully arrive out the other side as some kind of species that is really worthy of valor, where we can be authentically humankind and also have that experience of valor where we are now ready to die to something much bigger. And then when Pluto finishes 2020, 20 years, when Pluto finishes in Aquarius, the next sign it goes into is Pisces. So that's the sign of God. That's the sign of the dreamer that we were just discussing earlier. So this is setting up the species to meet God.
Wow.
I don't know. But that's what we're doing for 20 years.
For 20 years.
For 20 years.
It takes time to renovate.
A revolution didn't happen in a day.
And transformation is often not a comfortable journey. Change doesn't often come through comfortably sailing through life either. It's usually those intense moments that we start to recognize who we really are. Yeah. Or who we're not. Usually the not comes up first. And then the who we are comes, maybe a couple of days later.
A couple of lifetimes later.
It depends on how deeply you're hot white knuckling that roller coaster in that moment. But, and it's beautiful. I think it's a beautiful time. I think it's a very challenging time. And however, I feel more present than I have in a long time, as well as connected in much greater ways out there too. So, it's really, really quite fantastic.
Yeah, we can now connect both ways, into life and from the source of life. And we're only as limited as we agree we are limited. It's the channel is open always, both ways.
Oh, there was one more thing. Just one little last question. I had someone ask me a little while back, when is all of this going to be over? When are we going to get back to this place of not being squeezed, not being torturized, not being, when do we find our peace again?
Okay.
On a more general view.
On a more general view. Look, I have a little bit of good news about that. It would be easy for me to say not until Pluto exits Aquarius, but I don't actually think that's going to be the case.
In the year 3382.
No, I think we might see a reprieve a little bit earlier. So by my calculations, Uranus will enter Gemini in 2025. Okay, so let's back up. We've got Pluto in Aquarius.
Mm-hmm.
Then Uranus is going to enter Gemini in 2025, and it will start to form a trine to Pluto. So they're both in the same element. This is a trine that I was speaking about earlier. It's a very helpful, harmonizing, natural way for the energy to be. So that's going to start. That's 2025. Okay, we're getting a little bit of support here. A trine is like a balm. All right. So when you're running the race or you've fallen down and you've got bloody knees, and there's just a balm that sort of starts coming down gently. It's not going to change the process. It supports the process a little bit more. So suddenly maybe we're not feeling as antagonized or frightened by what's happening. And then in 2026, Saturn and Neptune will move into Aries around 2026, I think. And then they're going to form a sextile to Pluto and Uranus. So now we've got a whole lot of planetary archetypes in support. Sextile is another beautiful aspect. It's very harmonizing. It's very helpful. It's emancipating. It's like a gift. The sextile is like a gift. So what does this tell me? I think 2025, definitely 2026. And probably when we get to 2026, if we do another astrology thing, I'll be like 2028, 2029, like maybe it'll be okay for a week. No, I joke. But I think that what this says to me is that it may not get easier, but what the transmission of these this trine or this trine, and the sextile do, they're going to enable us to participate more rather than resist the process.
Yeah.
So what is easy? When is it going to end? When is it going to get easier? I think we're being asked to really commit to the final leg of the marathon to kind of get this thing across the line, get Pluto fully into Aquarius, and then it's just going to, whatever blows up in the next couple of years, okay, well, that had to blow up. And then I think these energies are going to start coming down and really supporting the process of being like, okay, how can we participate? How can we participate in this? How can we harmonize here? How can we make life and this experience of humanity easier for myself and my fellow humans? What have I come as an individual to share to enable someone else to have a slightly easier experience of this transit? So those would be the kind of roundabout dates that I would say I think it's going to ease a little bit, or not ease. I think our perception of it is going to ease. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. The pressure cooker will keep bubbling, but we'll kind of suddenly be like, this is okay.
This is okay. It's like we've built some form of resilience to it, and we know the ropes.
Yeah, an allowance. And of course, the more that we participate, like you and I've been talking about, the more you participate, the faster the thing gets achieved, the easier it is. So I think that we will see more participation and less resistance from people to arrive correctly, to give what they have brought with them all the way for just this transit, to give in our darkest hour as a species. So it's there's going to be a lot of beauty and a lot of breakthrough and unbelievable. I want to say it. I think there's going to be triumph of the human spirit. I think we're going to surprise ourselves profoundly as beings and as a collective. I think we're going to finally surprise ourselves in a way that we start feeling proud of what we are, and we're not the kind of the things, the forgotten things, all the way on this little planet, all the way, somewhere deep in space in the universe. I don't think that is our destiny at all.
No, I don't think so either. I have great hope for otherwise all of this would not be happening anyway.
No, we haven't come this far to only come this far. No. It wouldn't be like this.
No, not at all. I certainly wouldn't be here.
No, me either. No way.
I wouldn't be here playing in that game.
No.
Thank you so much, my darling Rianna.
You're so welcome. Thank you for having me.
That was so enlightening. I love you so much. And
all right. I love you. Take care.
Love you too.